Welcome to Common Sense. Common Sense is a series of shows that features interviews with interesting people in our area that will help us learn who these folks are, what they do, and what makes sense to them and what doesn't. I'm Rudy Breglia, and today I'll be interviewing Senator Nathan Manning of the Senate 13th District. Thank you for coming, Senator Manning. Thank you for your service. Please start us off. Tell us about your background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me, Rudy.
All right. Okay.
Nathan Manning. So I'm the state senator for the 13th district, which covers all of Huron County and all of Lorain County. So a nice, easy district to remember.
Okay.
I served 2 terms in the Ohio House, which represented Avon Lake as well, and as well as North Ridgeville, Elyria, Sheffield, Grafton area. So kind of the central eastern part of Lorain County. Enjoyed my time in the House and then ran for the Senate. Before getting into politics, I was the prosecutor for North Ridgeville. Okay. Did all the misdemeanor type of work at Elyria Municipal Court, and I also have a law practice with my sister Allison in North Ridgeville as well. Okay,
well, that's good. Could you backtrack a little bit? Tell us where you went to college, how you came to North Ridgeville, where you live now?
Yeah, I was born at Elyria Memorial Hospital, in the old EMH, and grew up, lifelong resident of North Ridgeville. My parents moved here. They were high school sweethearts. They both went to Brookside High School, and they went off to school, and my mom became a teacher at North Olmsted, and my dad started law practice in North Ridgeville, and that's where they raised me, and I'm a proud graduate of North Ridgeville High School. And then after that, in 2000, I went to Denison University in Granville, Ohio, a smaller university in Central Ohio. Great school, great people, had a great experience there, and then went off to Capital Law School in Columbus, and then moved back up and started the law practice with my sister. So.
Okay, and I'm presuming you get along with your sister.
She hasn't kicked me out of the law firm yet. I mean, we're partners technically, but she is the older sister. So.
Oh, okay. So you listen to her pretty carefully.
She's the boss, yes.
Okay, I understand. What influenced your decision to run for political office? Your first office.
Yeah. So I grew up with politics. My dad was always in politics behind the scenes for the most part, and then term limits came in early 2000. And it was an open seat, and he decided to run for state rep. I was a senior in high school, so I got to see it up front and close. And then I went. It worked perfectly, where I was there for the primary, and then the general election. I was already in college, and I was a political science major, so it was really interested in me. Really got involved. Him being down in Columbus, me being in the Columbus area, I was able to see it firsthand. Then he became the Lorain County prosecutor. Unfortunately, I lost him in 2004. But I learned so much from him and the passion that he had, and I kind of want to keep that going. And thankfully, my mom, she was not a politician. She was a great teacher, great mom, great wife. But after
That's Gail Manning.
Yeah, Gail Manning. And after my dad passed away, she ran for city council and kind of got involved. And next thing you know, she's running for state senate. And so it kind of kept. The passion of public service in our family alive, and she doesn't have the typical politician personality that my dad had. My dad was charismatic, it could give a speech no problem, and my personality is more aligned with my mom. I think we're more reserved, a little more shy, but that gave me the courage. That, I had the passion for politics. I didn't know if I had the personality for it.
I think you do pretty well.
Well, I've gotten a little bit better over the years, but it's still a little bit of struggle for those people. And that's where I try. When I go out and talk to people are very interested in running, but I don't, I'm not a politician. I can't give a speech, or it's not in me to do that. And I try to encourage as many people as possible, because we don't need all the typical politicians that you think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Fewer of them.
Yeah, but it's good to get just normal, down to earth people that are passionate and care about things. So When I first ran, it was an open seat. Matt Lundy, former state representative, now county commissioner, he was termed out. My local party and the state party kind of went around and they kind of recruit people. And at that time I was a prosecutor and had a local business. I said no at first, and then they kept asking, and
twisted
my arm a little bit, and decided to run, and somehow won, and did two terms in the House, and now I'm over in the Senate.
Okay. Well, now you've been through some elections. What was the toughest one, and what makes a tough election?
Well, any good politician will say their next election is their toughest election. You always have to run scared, and that's a good thing because that means you're out working hard and trying to engage with voters and constituents.
Create a really good record.
Yeah, and if you work hard, keep your head down. It's not necessarily campaigning per se, but you're always campaigning when you're working hard and trying to do what's best for the district. So I would say my next one, but if you're asking me like previous elections. It was my first one. I was pretty green and didn't necessarily, even though I grew up with it, helping other candidates with my family.
Still doing it. Yeah.
When you do it yourself, it's a little different. So, I ran against Brendan Mackin, Avon Lake, a great person. We knew each other. He was an attorney. I was an attorney. So that made it better that we were very friendly with each other. Yeah. And I still talk to him to this day, and he's a great guy. So, but it was definitely a tough election.
What should voters be looking for in a person that they would vote for the Senate?
I don't think there's any perfect state senator out there, any mold, because you want diversity, you want different personalities, you want different backgrounds, but you certainly want somebody that's going to work hard for your district. You want somebody passionate, somebody that has integrity, incredibly important. Something that I think some politicians or public officials maybe are lacking or could do a better job at is listening. I think listening is incredibly important. You need to listen to your people in your district. They're your boss. So a lot of times, politicians, they can give a great speech, but sometimes they need to listen to those experts in your district, those people that voted, whether they voted for you or not, they're your boss. And that's what I think is lacking some. Thankfully, many politicians do listen and are great listeners.
What are your major responsibilities as a senator?
Yeah, so we're in session technically year-round, but I kind of equate it to a school schedule where there's kind of breaks built in, summer breaks and winter breaks and a short spring break.
And you're working all the time.
No, well, yeah, certainly. I mean, thankfully, we can obviously a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zooms and things of that sort where you're working from home. And certainly part of the job is being in the district. You don't want to be stuck in Columbus too much. That's not good for anybody. It's not good for the residents of the district, and it's not good for you.
I know I've made plenty of calls. So
yeah, absolutely. But typically we're down there Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes Thursday every week. Committees Tuesdays and Wednesdays very full, and then usually session on Wednesdays where we're voting on final bills and everything along those lines. But it certainly doesn't end there. It's meeting after meeting, and when you're working on your own bills, you're working on other bills that are that are in your committee and things of that sort. So.
Now, you mentioned committees. How do senators get assigned to committees? I know, certain committees are better than others. How does that happen?
Yeah, it really just comes down to in the Senate, it's the Senate president, the House, it's the speaker. They assign the committees. Usually they try to assign it to where it's appropriate, with your background or things that you're interested in.
Justice Committee for you because you're an attorney and you're a prosecutor.
Yeah, exactly. I have a passion for, as you mentioned, I chair the Judiciary Committee, which handles all the criminal and civil, bills that are out there, or most of them at least. And it's a passion of mine and an area that certainly is appropriate for my background. But there's certainly, I was last General Assembly, I was the chair of the Local Government Committee, and I think that was because of my background as a city prosecutor and local government to a certain extent.
What advantages are there to being a chair? do you set the agenda? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more work. That's a disadvantage, but it's also the advantage is that, you set the agenda, you decide what bills are having hearings, and at the end of the day, it's a vote of the committee members on whether something gets passed or not. But as a chair, you certainly have that, a little bit of control over what bills are at least going to be heard, not necessarily what's going to be passed.
So are you in a way, you're a coach?
That's a good analogy. I mean, because you work with, because there's a ranking member, there's a vice chair, so I try to work very closely with both those individuals, as well as all the committee members. But at the end of the day, you're kind of out there coaching and deciding what bills, and you're trying to communicate with the committee members, see what's of interest to them, and also the bill sponsors, and work with them. So. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to go through some of the bills that you're involved with, and some that you sponsor and have put out there. The first one is SB16, which is crimes against first responders. I don't know a whole lot about it. Could you, brief us a little bit about that bill?
Yeah, this is a bill brought by Senator Schaefer, who works really hard on first responders and criminal justice issues. And he openly says, "I'm not an attorney," but it's an area that constituents bring to him, when he talks to police or first responders. And unfortunately, this day and age, police are sometimes being targeted specifically because they're a police officer or their family members are being targeted. So this is just making sure that, that if somebody is targeting a police officer solely because they're a police officer, it's not because they're your neighbor or something, obviously that's still illegal. But if you're harassing or assaulting,
it's a deterrent.
Yes, absolutely. So.
Okay. What about SB 21? I've seen it termed the Manning Bill, and that's regarding stroke victims.
Well, I would call it the Antonio Bill. That was my joint sponsor.
Okay.
She's from Lakewood, and we worked together on this. We worked with Cleveland Clinic and certainly all the advocates out there. And actually, we were just named Legislators of the Year nationally for the surgeons that work in the stroke field. And because this is something that's, one of the first is in Ohio, where we're looking at trying to be smart. I mean, we've made great technologies and medical advancements in the world of strokes. I lost my grandmother a number of years ago to a stroke, and so it's certainly important to me. But many people have been affected, whether personally or close friends or family members. And with all those new advancements in medical technology, unfortunately, not all the hospitals have them. So this bill basically tries to come up with the strategy of where an individual should be taken if they are having a stroke. For me, I'm closer to Elyria Hospital, but they don't have some of the technologies there. But the Avon Cleveland Clinic does have that. So even though it might take a few more minutes maybe to get to Avon if I was suffering from a stroke, it would be the smarter choice for me, where if it was a non-stroke emergency, they would probably take me to Elyria. So we're just trying to, common sense, try to be smart with where individuals are going in terms of hospitals.
I like that term, common sense.
Yes, it goes well here.
Right. What about SB 36 and the help for violent crime victims?
Yeah.
Often, victims are forgotten about.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Many times when you're a victim of violent crime, medical expenses rack up or other expenses, unfortunately, funerals for loved ones, and people aren't always able to pay for it. So there's a fund through the Attorney General's office, and we're just trying to update that and working very closely with Attorney General Yost. But this was, shed some light on it because of the Dayton shooting a number of years, or a couple of years ago, where some victims did not qualify for this fund and it wasn't properly allocated. So we're just trying to update it, expand it to who's eligible. If you didn't, do something to contribute to your own victimization, like you weren't a part of the crime, we want to help you. You're a victim, and that's what this bill's about.
That's what government should be doing, right?
Absolutely.
What about Senate Bill 176, legalizing sports betting, and how does that work?
Yeah. So this is a big bill. A lot of people that maybe are typically interested in politics aren't all that interested in this. But shoot, when I'm walking down the street and talking to a neighbor, this is the first thing they bring up, because sports betting is something that's coming. It's already happening, on the black market in Ohio, but happening across the country. More and more states are legalizing it after the Supreme Court decision that said we could.
Right.
And this is an area that, if you tune into ESPN or any of our local talk shows, radio talk shows, they're talking about betting lines and everything else already. So this is really creating a whole new industry for Ohio. I served as vice chair of the gaming committee where this bill came out of, and then I was honored to be the joint sponsor with Senator Antoni. And we passed it through the Senate with the help of Chairman Schuring and President Huffman, and now it's over in the House. And really, we're just trying to make it as common sense as possible. Once again, very relevant for the show, but it's very complicated because we want a free market, but at the same time, we don't want the wild, wild west. So it's kind of that combination of trying to balance it.
Kind of difficult to do.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, but I think it's going to happen, and it's coming, and hopefully people will be able to place bets in a responsible way here soon.
Understand. Now I guess a kind of an overall question, how does the state government work to help citizens? What are the ways in which the state government can do that? Yeah,
well, this goes back to, at least from the perspective of legislators, listening. Once again, you want to listen to, your constituents. Two of my bills that I worked on my first year in the House actually came from Avon Lake residents. The Howdy Shell bill. Unfortunately, the Howdy Shell family lost their son to diabetes and was not able to get his insulin refilled. So we worked with his family.
Very sad.
It's very tragic. And unfortunately, it was something that happened more than it should. So we worked with them, worked with the experts in the field to where you can get that emergency insulin refilled. And now they're great advocates, great people, and they're going across the country, getting it passed in other states. And it also had something to do with the doctor pharmacy consult, once again, trying to, get, bring common sense to it. If the pharmacist is the one that is working with the individual on a more regular basis, obviously we don't want to, step on doctors' toes, but the doctors worked with us here. So it was able to, save lives. I really, truly believe that. And that's what government can do for you. If there's something that's wrong, go to your state legislators, work with them. There's not always a solution, but oftentimes there is. Now, in general, in state government, certainly roads and prisons and schools and everything else, a lot of it comes down to funding in general, and we just passed the budget. But there's a lot that the state government does, working with the local, whether it's the schools, the mayors or city council, and also with the federal government, trying to work hand in hand to make everybody's life a little bit easier.
Tell us about the 22-23 Ohio budget that was just passed.
Yes, so this is actually my first time on Finance Committee, which is a definitely big honor. That's where the budget goes through, but also had a lot of hours in a seat for.
I can understand. How many pages? 2,000?
Yes, I lost track, but it's a lot of pages, and there's a lot in there, and there's a lot of great things in there. This is the biggest tax cut in Ohio's history. So we're giving money back to the citizens, and I think that's a good thing.
We appreciate it.
Yes, that's. But even though we did have the biggest tax cut, 3% across the board, overall $2 billion in tax cuts, we still were able to fund important things like schools. We had the fair school funding. I know you have Superintendent Scott coming on the show here soon. He was a big advocate for that. We worked closely with him. Once again, we worked with the experts to come up with a very responsible, fair school funding formula. Speaker Cup, back when he was just a lowly state rep, worked on it with former Representative Patterson for a number of years, and that was included in this budget. Funding for H2 Ohio, which is going to certainly affect Lake Erie, and I know it's very important to Avon Lake here. We were able to fund that. We're in the Avon Lake Library right now, and we were able to work with librarians across the district, across the state, to increase funding there, because there are so many important things that libraries do for the community.
I love the library.
Yeah, so there's a lot in the budget, but those are some of the high points.
Now, the budget had something in for Lorraine School District based on its situation. I've heard it termed academic distress.
Yes, so this is an issue I've been working on for a number of years. This was House Bill 70, well-intended. It was originally intended for Youngstown school districts to try to help struggling school districts on improving. It basically, the state would take over the school district, and unfortunately, it just wasn't working how it was drafted and how it was implemented. I heard loud and clear from Lorraine School that this was not working for them, from the students, teachers, parents, administrators. I worked very closely with CEO Graham, Dr. Graham over there, and we were able to have a pathway out, and where you return local control to the elected school board. But we also wanted to help, so it continues to help the school district. We understand there's difficulties in Lorraine that not every city has, so we certainly want to help them help the students. So rather than the state taking over, we're there as a resource.
Understand. It sounds like you've designed something that's better than what exists.
Yes, we're helping the students, but also giving that freedom to the local elected officials, and they're very happy with it. I'm very happy. We worked with Representative Miller, my mom, who's the chair of education in the Ohio House, and Chair Brenner, the chair of the Senate Education. Worked very closely and came up with a great plan.
Okay, so you're you're close to your mom. You can talk and come up with the solutions.
It's a great ally to have. So,
yeah.
You can never trust a politician, right? But at least you can trust your mom. So
well, tell us what outstanding things do you have planned for yourself and for Ohio?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to work on so many things, trying to help the community in any way we can. As chair of the Judiciary Committee, we have a lot of important bills coming through there, whether it's bail reform, we're hearing testimony on death penalty. Judiciary outside of the budget time is probably the busiest committee. And as a chair, as we talked about before, you're really involved in those bills. You almost become a joint sponsor with the sponsor on those bills. So I'm looking forward to getting back in Columbus and working on some of the important legislation coming through judiciary. We're drawing the districts here soon. So every 10 years we redraw the districts. I am on the local government / elections committee. It's kind of a joint committee there with two different big issues. So looking forward to working on that as well, and seeing we passed some new laws. We all voted on them, overwhelmingly passed, because we had to change the Constitution to make them more common sense districts. Once again, very relevant. I keep using that word. But we saw some districts that were drawn very creative.
Creative.
Yes, exactly. Gerrymandered districts, and we're trying to cut that down. We want districts. We don't necessarily want 50-50 districts. We want districts that make geographical sense. So I'm excited to work on that issue as well.
Okay, well, good luck. Well, the last question I always ask is, what's making sense to you and what doesn't?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with what doesn't. There's just a lot of negativity out there. I understand we all have different opinions and different ways to go about things. Unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where it's a little too negative. Let's try to talk about our differences, and see if there's common ground that we can, because there's a lot of common ground that I think that we don't always realize, and even though there's that negativity out there, whether with social media and everything else, we just passed this budget that was the biggest tax cut in Ohio history, and there was only one no vote. It was a 32-1 vote in the Senate. So
wow,
I mean that's hard to do. Bipartisan bill, it, had a lot in it, but we were able to come together and work together, and that's what's good about it. I mean, while you might hear all the negative stuff out there, there's a lot of positive stuff that's actually happening with elected officials.
Okay, now this is a 2-year budget. Is that common?
Yeah, it's always a 2-year budget. It's we have to balance the budget. Unlike the federal government, we have to have a balanced budget.
You can't print money.
We unfortunately can't. So it's a 2-year biannual budget. That's usually the first 6 months of a GA, a General Assembly, is doing that budget. It has to be done by July 1st. So that's usually I'm also on the Transportation Committee, so there's a transportation budget and then there's a general revenue budget. So that's what we do in the first 6 months. Obviously we're working on other issues as well, but that's what takes up a lot of the time. And then there's a capital budget that happens the following year, where we help fund local projects. Where Avon Lake has been great, working with the mayor and the city council and advocates in Avon Lake, where we're able to bring taxpayer money back to Avon Lake and help some of those great projects go over the finish line.
Uh-huh. And how are we doing in general with our finances, with our Ohio finances?
We're doing really well. Like I said, we're $2 billion tax cuts, but we're still able to increase funding in schools and H2 Ohio and brownfields and everything else. We're doing really well, and that's because we're really creating an environment where businesses can grow and expand, or businesses want to come to Ohio. When I first got elected, not that many years ago, around early 2010s, we were rated, one of the lowest for businesses. Environment, for business environment. In all these different ratings out there. And now we're in the top 10 in many of those ratings. So,
okay.
It's and that's good for business, it's good for jobs, and it's good for revenue for the state. We can cut those taxes, but not necessarily lose out on some of these important programs out there. So we're doing really well.
Well, thank you, Senator. Thank you for your service. I think it's just wonderful that we have folks like you representing us in Columbus and doing so many good things.
Well, thanks, Rudy, for having me. This is great. Great to get out there. And if anybody is interested in talking to me, please reach out. Don't hesitate.
Okay. Well, thank you all for watching. Please give us feedback on the show. If you want to contact either of us, our email addresses are at the bottom of the screen. If you're interested in appearing on the show, or if you know of interesting people who would like to appear, please send us contact information, and we'll make arrangements for appearances. Remember, seatbelts save lives and reduce injuries. Goodbye.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.